In our headlines on this Thursday afternoon, July 4th, here in South Korea. Seoul's Finance Minister Choi pledges a proactive economic strategy in light of a host of uncertainties to ensure Korea's export-driven recovery momentum stays on track. Meanwhile, bereaved family members and friends of the 9 people who lost their lives Monday following a fatal traffic accident gathered for funeral services earlier this morning. Over in the U.S., the White House reaffirms President Joe Biden's bid for re-election in November amid rampant speculation about a potential surrender fueled by an American media report. Korea will seek a proactive approach against potential external risk factors to maintain the export-oriented recovery momentum for the rest of the year. Intentions to this end were shared by Seoul's top finance official. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin covers his remarks.
The South Korean government is carrying out measures to maintain export competitiveness in the face of global uncertainties. Measures including expanding trade networks, increasing overseas projects and support funds, and following up with state visits were announced during a ministerial meeting on Thursday presided over by Finance Minister Choi. While the economy is showing signs of recovery, with the economic growth projection for this year being revised upwards to 2.6% on the back of strong exports, the minister stressed that external uncertainties remain for the latter half of the year.
Geopolitical tensions remain and global supply chains are being reorganized as major countries prioritize their own interests. The government will thus carefully monitor external uncertainty factors and supply chain risk, while concentrating policy efforts to further strengthen exports for the second half of the year.
Since 2004, South Korea has secured 21 FTAs with 59 countries, behind only Singapore for the number of FTAs, and it plans to continue expanding its trade network by forming relationships with emerging markets such as the Global South as well as key Indo-Pacific nations. As for strategies to win overseas projects, the government plans to strengthen cooperation between governments to further secure large-scale projects. And the Export-Import Bank of Korea, the nation's official export credit agency, will spend 85 trillion won, or around $61.5 billion, over the next 5 years to help companies to win orders in key strategic areas such as infrastructure and power plants. The government will also carry out follow-up measures to state visits, including the most recent to 3 Central Asian countries, by boosting cooperation with them in key areas such as key minerals, energy, and infrastructure. The finance minister added that this is the best time to carry out preemptive measures to combat external uncertainties as exports are showing a robust recovery, and that the government will continue working towards making sure that these measures will lead to boosting domestic demand as well. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Staying with the economy, the government also plans to offer tax breaks to businesses that work to boost their corporate value. Our Choi Min-jung has details.
South Korea has unveiled measures to foster the growth of new industries. The Finance Ministry revealed a roadmap on Wednesday that aims to incentivize companies that enhance their corporate value and increase shareholder returns. This will be done by providing a range of tax incentives and benefits. First, the government plans to reduce corporate taxes by 5% for companies that increase shareholder returns exceeding 5% over the span of 3 years. Companies can do this by increasing dividends or canceling treasury stocks. This applies to all companies regardless of size. The government will also lower income tax rates for the shareholders of companies that have high corporate value. Accordingly, if the dividend income is 12 million won, the tax burden will be reduced by 100,000 won. If the dividend income is 22 million won, the tax burden will be reduced by 200,000 won. The government is implementing the new regulations temporarily for 3 years, but they will first need to be passed by the National Assembly. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
In other news, bereaved family members and friends of the 9 people who lost their lives Monday night amid a traffic accident gathered for funeral services earlier on this Thursday morning as investigations into the cause of the car crash continue. Our Park Gun-woo has the latest.
The funerals of the 9 victims of the deadly car accident near Seoul City Hall station on Monday took place Thursday morning following their reposal at Seoul National University Hospital, the National Medical Center, and Severance Hospital funeral halls. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency during a briefing Wednesday gave an update on their investigation, saying no skid marks were found at the accident site, which could have been a major clue to whether the driver suddenly accelerated or not. This was a correction made after an hour when the police initially said there were skid marks found at the crash site, but they turned out to be from an oil leak. The police confirmed that video footage showed that the driver began accelerating for the parking lot of a nearby hotel before the accident. They also submitted data from 6 CCTV cameras, as well as information from the car's event data recorder and dashcam, to the National Forensic Service for investigation in order to determine whether the car suddenly accelerated, which is the driver's claim. The driver's wife, who was the only passenger in the car, told police that the car's brakes were not working at the time of the crash. The 68-year-old driver, who is currently in hospital, will face further investigation once he recovers from his injuries. 7 pedestrians were also wounded in the fatal collision. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, at the National Assembly, a filibuster that began Wednesday afternoon continues at the Parliament as we speak. Lawmakers of the ruling People Power Party have been taking to the podium in protest of a bill proposed by the main opposition Democratic Party, calling for a special probe into the death of a Marine during a search and rescue operation amid last year's floods. Opposition lawmakers allege the government sought to interfere with investigations into his death. Ruling lawmakers assert the bill is politically motivated. Meanwhile, under the National Assembly Act, a filibuster can be halted after 24 hours if at least 3/5 of the Parliament agree to do so. President Yoon Suk-yeol on Thursday nominated Lee Jin-suk for the chair of the Korea Communications Committee. Now, this is the 3rd nomination for the post over the course of a year, as previous chairs stepped down amid impeachment plans by opposition lawmakers. Lee Jin-suk, who is currently the head of the Daejeon branch of Korean broadcaster MBC, formerly worked as a news reporter for over 3 decades. Separately, former 2nd Vice Minister for Finance Kim Won-sop has been tapped to head the Environment Ministry, while current 1st Vice Minister for Finance Kim Byung-hwan has been named for the post of Financial Services Commissioner. The White House has reaffirmed President Joe Biden's bid for re-election this November amid rampant speculation about a potential surrender following a U.S. media report quoting a key ally. Our Lee Seung-jae explains.
A report by the New York Times Wednesday led to a wave of speculation that U.S. President Joe Biden was considering dropping out of running for a 2nd term. Headlined, Biden told ally that he is weighing whether to continue in the race. It seemed as if Biden was unsure if he could carry on after his subpar performance during a televised debate with Donald Trump. The article, however, was misleading, with no reference to Biden explicitly saying he would not run again. Rather, the report was based on a conversation between Biden and an unnamed key ally, who was quoted as saying that the president knew he needed to quickly reassure the public he can still do the job. That did not stop the speculation, leading the White House to reiterate that the president is still working towards his goal of staying in office for another 4 years.
What I can say is the president is moving forward. He's moving forward as being president. He's moving forward with his campaign, as his campaign has been very, very clear about that. That's what I can speak to, and that's what I can say, and that is the president's focus. The president's focus is how does he continue to do that work, and anything else that we're hearing or that's being reported is absolutely false.
However, pressure continues within the Democratic Party as another Democrat lawmaker called on Biden to resign. Speaking to the New York Times in an interview, Congressman Raul Grijalva, who represents Arizona, said he would support Biden if he remains at the top of the ticket, but said he believes the party should select a new nominee. The remarks come just 1 day after Lloyd Doggett became the first sitting Democrat lawmaker to call on Biden to withdraw from the race. An opinion poll conducted by the New York Times and Siena College also showed Trump's approval rating widening after last week's debate. Among likely voters, 49% said they would vote for Trump, as opposed to 43% of respondents who said they would still vote for Biden. This marks a 3 percentage point upswing for Trump from a week earlier. Additionally, among registered voters, 49% said they would vote for the former president, while 41% said they would vote for the incumbent. 74% of respondents also said that Biden is too old for the job, up 5 percentage points since the debate. 이승재, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, violent confrontations between Israel and Hezbollah continue, with the latter, that is, launching some 100 rockets into Israeli territory following the death of a commander. Arirang has more.
Hezbollah says it fired 100 rockets at Israel in response to the killing of one of its senior commanders. The Lebanese militant group said through a statement on Wednesday that Mohammed Nima Nasser had been killed in an Israeli strike in southern Lebanon, later adding that it launched 100 Katyusha rockets at an Israeli military base and another attack near the border. According to the Israeli military, most of the rockets fell in open areas without causing any injuries. Israel identified Nasser as the commander of a unit that operated from southwestern Lebanon, which was responsible for firing attacks into Israel. Sources indicate that Nasser held a similar rank to Taleb Abdallah, a senior commander killed by an Israeli strike in June. That attack prompted Hezbollah to launch some 200 rockets at Israel, the largest rocket attack since the conflict in Gaza began on October 7th. Another of Hezbollah's top commanders was killed by Israel in January. Also on Wednesday, the Israeli government said it is reviewing Hamas's response to an Israeli proposal, which included the release of hostages and a ceasefire. Israel's intelligence service confirmed on Wednesday that mediators in Qatar and Egypt had submitted Hamas's response to Israel. Hamas also confirmed that one of the group's leaders had engaged with mediators positively, but demanded a deal that includes a complete ceasefire. Ian-hee, Arirang News.
Over in the UK, voters now heading to polling stations on Thursday to cast their ballots in a decisive general election that many pundits believe is essentially a referendum on 14 years of the Conservative Party's governance. Our Choi Soo-hyung reports.
The United Kingdom is preparing for Thursday's general election. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of the Conservative Party and opposition Labour Party leader Keir Starmer are making their final push for votes.
I understand people's frustrations with me, with our party, but I say this. It's a choice about the future of our country. A choice that is going to have severe consequences for each and every family if we get that choice wrong. Just think what a Labour government with a supermajority would do.
We've now had 14 years of chaos, of division and failure, and the choice tomorrow is to bring that to an end, to turn the page and start to rebuild with Labour.
The upcoming general election will determine the composition of the House of Commons and ultimately the next Prime Minister. The Labour Party is forecast to win by a landslide, ending the Conservative Party's 14-year rule. Recent polls show that Labour has about 40% support and the Conservatives have 20%. On Wednesday evening, YouGov, a public opinion and data company based in London, forecast that Labour could win 431 out of 650 seats in the House of Commons. If this happens, it will be the largest number of seats won by a single party since the first UK general election in 1832. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has appealed to his supporters with strong controls on refugees, such as sending asylum seekers to Rwanda and an increase in defence spending. Labour leader Keir Starmer has focused on a century strategy promising stable economic growth, wealth creation and unwavering national security. Many voters blame the 14 years of the Conservative-led governments for the cost of living crisis, issues in the healthcare system and the chaos due to Brexit. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Back on the local front, members of Kpop girl group New Jeans have been elected as Honorary Tourism Ambassadors for Korea this year. The official appointment ceremony by the Korea Tourism Organization will take place next Thursday, that is July 11th. Last week, New Jeans was on stage at the Tokyo Dome for 2 days, where over 90,000 fans gathered for a glimpse of the group's members. Meanwhile, actor Lee Jung-jae of Squid Game was tapped for the role of Korea's tourism ambassador last year. The harvesting of strawberries is no longer dictated by seasonal laws thanks to advances in technology that have also allowed for dramatic drops in related costs. Our Cha Young-kyung tells us how.
This is a strawberry farm in Pyeongtaek, Gyeonggi-do Province. Farmers usually finish harvesting strawberries at the end of May. However, a strawberry harvest is in full swing here in June. The secret is a water-cooled air conditioning and heating system, which makes it possible to extend the harvest season for strawberries by using awning screens and sprinklers after setting up a water-cooled air conditioning and heating system.
The heat island effect happens in the house. Hot air cannot move to where cold air collects, but the cold air rises as it gets hotter.
Another benefit is that farmers can save on the huge costs of using standard air conditioning and heating. This new system utilizes underground water, which is always around 15 degrees Celsius. Therefore, this new technology is much cheaper than the existing one, which uses air or geothermal heat as a heat source.
Underground water is efficient with its year-round temperature, making huge amount of deviation both in summer and in winter. If the temperature goes up to 35 degrees in summer, it makes 20 degrees of deviation.
According to the research of Korea Agriculture Technology Promotion Agency, the savings on costs are between 70% to 90% compared to the standard system. Harvesting strawberries until July using the water-cooled air conditioning system is now possible. Farmers can set up the water-cooled air conditioning facility as long as they can drill for underground water.
The biggest problem for farmers in Korea is the high cost of air conditioning and heating in their greenhouses. We look for companies that have the technology and products which can cut costs dramatically and support them.
The water-cooled air conditioning and heating system was developed 4 years ago, and about 600 have been set up around 70 cities and counties nationwide. The number of farms using the system is expected to rise in the future because of the dramatic cost saving. Cha Young-kyung, Arirang News.
Urban forests here in the country are emerging as places of refuge for a number of endangered wildlife, prompting calls for proper research and support efforts. Our Ian has more.
In this small forest surrounded by houses and apartments in the city center of Gangneung in Gangwon-do Province, the endangered flying squirrel has recently been spotted. The flying squirrel is also designated a natural monument in South Korea. And in May, another vulnerable species, the fairy pita, was spotted in a small forest near a school area in Ulsan City. The colorful fairy pita is a summer migratory bird that is hardly ever seen in the city. But these small city forests have become shelters for wild animals that have lost their homes to urban development. Now, there's an environmental organization, a cooperative, where its members conduct ecological research by searching for traces of wildlife, such as footprints and excretion. They have also taken the role of raising awareness of the importance of such urban forests in the ongoing global climate crisis.
The climate crisis is driving more endangered animals to extinction, so humans need to think about what we can do in such a situation.
But the reality is that not even a basic ecological survey, in terms of the numbers and animal species, is being conducted in most urban forests.
When mating is carried out in a small population for a long time, inbreeding can occur, which greatly reduces genetic diversity.
There are roughly 2,600 urban forests across the country. More people are raising their voices for protection measures and ecological surveys at these forests in order for safe coexistence of wildlife and humans. 이은진, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. Russian President Vladimir Putin hailed relations with China, saying they are at their best period in history as he met with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Kazakhstan on Wednesday. Both Putin and Xi praised the group, which includes Central Asian countries as well as India, Iran and Pakistan, for its expanding membership and emphasized stable Sino-Russian relations amidst regional tensions. Putin also said that those relations are not aimed against anyone, adding that both countries are acting in the interests of our peoples. The SCO, a regional security bloc founded by Russia and China some 20 years ago, is also set to welcome Belarus as a new member of the organization on Thursday. This year's two-day summit in the Kazakh capital, Astana, titled Strengthening Multilateral Dialogue, has security and stability at the top of the agenda. The powerful Hurricane Beryl hit Jamaica on Wednesday with a combination of a life-threatening storm surge and destructive winds. The Category 4 hurricane had already killed at least 7 people and caused significant damage in the southeast Caribbean. The storm is one of the strongest to strike Jamaica in recent years. It reached Category 5 at one point, making it the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record in the Atlantic. The death toll from Hurricane Beryl rose to at least 7 on Tuesday, as a total of 3 people were reported dead in Venezuela. The hurricane is expected to make landfall in the Cayman Islands from Wednesday night into Thursday, with the hurricane warning also in effect for part of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Now to Peru, where a runaway bull caused chaos among pedestrians and drivers in the streets of Santa Anita, a town to the east of Lima, on Monday. While no injuries were reported, security camera footage showed a bull charging against unsuspecting cars and pedestrians in the street, knocking over the cyclist. Local authorities showed up soon after and captured the bull. The owner, who later appeared to retrieve him, reportedly said he will pay for all damages caused by the bull. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We have monsoon rain in the forecast. It will start to rain late this afternoon from the west, spreading to the rest of the central regions. Then it will rain nationwide by late tonight. And it's forecast to rain down hard overnight, dropping 20 to 50 millimeters an hour on central regions. So please park your car wisely tonight. However, it's forecast to be very hot during the day with heat advisories in place for many southern parts of the country under sunnier skies. Central regions will also notice a rise in highs, but it will be cloudy. Well, it was a rough night for those in East Coast regions, with overnight temperatures staying above 25 degrees Celsius. And this afternoon, Daegu gets up to 34 degrees, Gyeongju at 35 degrees Celsius. But do note that muggy air will make it feel quite hotter and uncomfortable than actual temperatures. Now, monsoon rain takes a break tomorrow afternoon, but brace for nationwide downpours this weekend. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session, so do stay with us.